Hello, friends. Thank you for joining me for another video today. And this is part two of a video series that I've been exploring called Mindset as Medicine. What if we are scaring ourselves out of positive affirmations? So in the first video, and there will be a link in the video description to the article that goes with this video as well as to the previous video. So if you missed that, no worries, I'll catch you up for sure. And you can also go back if you'd like. But what I did discuss is the mind-body connection and how sometimes when we know that there's a mind-body connection and we're in this emotional turmoil, like in 2020, it's just been one kind of whipping against the next, right? We have the healthcare crisis, then the economic insecurity, followed by the mental health crisis, and now political divisions, wars. It's just climate stuff. It's a lot to take in. And I'm not trying to make it appear less than what it is, but it is intense. And we do need to kind of step back a little bit and look at how we ourselves are going to take care of ourselves and how we're processing this information. So the first video I talked about how when we have adverse childhood events that we haven't dealt with or we're willing to look at, that impacts a lifelong reaction to stress, our reaction to adverse events, and our physical health, and especially our mental health. Depression had the highest correlation, and interestingly followed by lungs and other physical health modalities or issues, I should say. So what I want to talk about now is on how the body does keep score of trauma and that we can rewire the brain to heal after adverse experiences using integrative medicine. So that is helpful. And then I want to talk about right now, like when we're in recent trauma, what are the resources that we can use to prevent depreciation or our functioning going down and to actually help increase our chances for post-traumatic growth, because that is possible. And then I want to talk about kind of finding a balance between emotional healing and quote unquote staying positive. Because to use positivity to our advantage, we must first do some deep work to release and heal old wounds. And by removing these blocks, our brain can then be more open to embracing these messages and function and flourish more optimally because they do make a difference. So let's talk a little bit about how the brain gets rewired with trauma. I talked about it a little bit in the first video, again, how childhood trauma and stress actually changes neural pathways and can prevent cognitive growth, as well as how cortisol, these long-term stress chemicals, can create changes in the brain that impact memory and also can lead to mental health issues. And also these long-term stress impacts and how our body perceives stress will have ripple effects on our physical health. I know that's not cheery, but it is a scientific, biological fact. So there's a book called Body Keep Score by Vessel Dandercloak, and I hope I'm saying that right. But the author discusses scientific advances that further demonstrate how trauma literally reshapes the body and the brain. And it's very interesting if you wanted to look deeper into this issue. But basically, it impacts how the person experiences pleasure, how they engage with other people, how they're able to practice self-control and impulsivity. So we may notice that some people tend to be more explosive than others. This can be a result of trauma. And trauma can also impact how we form bonds with people and trust each other. The cool thing is, in this same book and also other evidence has shown that there are innovative treatments, things such as neurofeedback, meditation, even body movement, sports, yoga, that can train the brain and reactivate different pathways to help reverse some of these different patterns of cognitive functioning. And that's called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form new connections and pathways and change how its circuits are wired. Neurogenesis is a little bit different, and it's pretty even more amazing because it's the ability of the brain to grow new neurons. And that evidence is just coming out, and it's right now maybe more so in the hippocampal area. It's not fully elucidated yet, but it's still a hopeful field. And what it was shown is in the 1960s, it was discovered that neurons could actually reorganize after a traumatic event, and that this could change the function and structure of the brain. So it's kind of what I already discussed about how adverse experiences and can rewire the brain and how stress impacts the brain. Now, when I was studying to become a certified functional medicine doctor, I learned various factors that could influence neuroplasticity for the better. And some of these included things that you might be doing today, enriching our environment. And those were more technological things like virtual reality and things such as that. But other things that we might actually do on a daily basis, such as nourishing foods, taking in certain phytonutrients for brain health, music, engaging in the senses, including smelling essential oils, can all cause different pathways in the brain to light up. Movement and exercise, making sure inflammation goes down so that it's not negatively affecting brain pathways, enhancing stress resiliency, using different lifestyle factors, especially sleep, to make sure that the brain is healing, optimally functioning, and that we're effectively using cognitive and mental pathways that are appropriate and helpful for us. And then love and connection. And that's probably, to me, the most vital because it's also the most overlooked. But love actually changes our neurotransmitters and our brain biochemistry and neurochemistry. And we know how social connections impact health outcomes as well as our mental health. So with this information, I use it with my clients to implement a combination of lifestyle and integrative medicine tools to assist them as we change their brain rewiring and support holistic healing at the mind-body level. And I'm doing this while I'm correcting biochemical, psychological, and other physical imbalances, along with the support of a conventional therapist if needed in standard of care. And we always want to look at the different brain factors on, remember, the brain is an organ that's often overlooked. We just think that it's an emotional issue, but really if our brain health is lacking, it's really hard for our cognitive function to be optimized. So I always want to look at things such as hormones, gut health, inflammation, oxidative stress, neurotransmitters, all these different areas will impact whether or not someone's brain pathways are optimal or not. So support the biology and the psychology and the neuroplasticities in order to help heal from trauma, neuroplasticity, I should say. So this is very helpful. I use a lot of essential oils for this. And then once people's brains are better functioning, they're more able to use these affirmations to further reinforce their newly formed nervous system and brain pathways, which is pretty cool. So using neuroplasticity and different integrative medicine tools to get our brain to be neuroplastic and heal is great for after the fact of trauma. What about right now, when many of us are definitely in trauma? Well, I discussed previously, and I wrote about how current trauma can lead to either post-traumatic depreciation. It can kind of also balance somebody out if they have enough resilience factors. They're not either better or worse off. So it can also lead to post-traumatic growth. And this depends on the resources they have available. And some of the factors that were found to influence post-traumatic growth are the ability to relate to others, seeking out new possibilities, personal strength, spiritual changes, and an appreciation for life. And specifically, people who experience post-traumatic growth tend to take the traumatic experience as a catalyst to finding a deeper purpose. So this is related to several psychological factors that impact someone's ability to have these post-traumatic growth experiences. And this is intentional rumination. So this is almost thinking about positive results. Here's where positivity comes in. Resilience, social support, social interaction, positive emotions, and coping strategies. So we see how the two are interconnected, right? This positivity, but also having these resources to get us to this positivity. So I also think it's interesting that spirituality and connection are so imperative for transforming trauma into a growth mindset. And it sort of explains why the world is struggling so much right now, because relationships truly have the capacity to either heal us or hurt us in their absence. And many have felt isolated and divided by current events and their opinions about certain things. I'm keeping it cool so we can discuss the topic of hand of trauma. So the irony is that in order for us to cope with what's going on, we need more social interaction, not less. We need to seek out new experiences, not the same old thing. And we want to be able to relate to other people more so, not less so, not only the people that we can already relate to. So I feel like we need to do more to come together. And this isn't just based on policies and politics, but for our mental health. And I know the current outreach of the federal level was addressing the mental health crisis more on the socioeconomic level and access. But I think we need to incorporate and look at some of these more holistic aspects of how to handle post-traumatic growth. And we have these abilities. We have the ability to get, more social support and deal with how we look at things, and maybe really work with our spirituality or what our purpose is during these times. I think everybody can kind of relate to how this current events have made us look more deeply into things. And there's also the option of getting support if it's hard for your brain not to stay stuck and you need some biochemical support or biological support along with some neuroplasticity training. Because it is possible that even during hard times to move forward, to be productive, even thrive, but not be unrealistic about what's going on in the world, because that would just be kind of rose-colored glasses, but really taking care of ourselves and have the ability to help others can enhance our resiliency. So the bottom line is you can't run away from your traumas or your feelings. You do have to feel it eventually to heal it, but you don't have to be afraid of your feelings. And there's ways to get beyond trauma and retrain the brain so the brain doesn't stay stuck in trauma. And there's different therapies and all different methods and modalities to help people right now have better brain health. And there's also many studies that show that if we can use positive emotions such as forgiveness, self-love, positive affirmations, if we can constructively deal with our past and any regrets we have, and if we can have more of a sense of optimism and gratitude, that's going to create better outcomes for us in the long term, physically and mentally and emotionally. So there's a balance between processing these old emotions and then retuning your brain and assisting with rewiring so that we can take in these positive affirmations. And let's just say the first step that I would request all of you to do is to really be kind to yourself right now and reach out for support if you need it. And also consider, if you do have this resiliency, how you can also reconnect more with other people and help them. And maybe think about how we can relate more to other people and create more cohesiveness as a society. this isn't in the post, but I was reading the World Happiness Report, and of course, it went down in many areas. People are feeling more sad, maybe less optimistic, especially in the younger generation. But you know what did go up from 2020 to now is benevolence, kindness. So I think people are craving this human contact of being kind, and I think it's free. It raises our serotonin, and we can provide it. I'd love to hear what you think about this series, and if I helped you understand why positivity is a wonderful tool, but why it's hard to get there right now, and how we can use it in conjunction with our healing right now, and what we can do for post-traumatic growth during these trying times. I'd love for you to share your feedback, and I'd love for you to remember to be kind to yourself and others. And please do explore my free resources on both of my websites. I have a dedicated essential oil website. I also have my break free medicine website, and I have a full out essential oil database with all topics health and single oils, and it just has a bunch of information there for you. I have courses, I have programs for physicians who want to learn how to clinically apply essential oils. And there's just a bunch of resource guides and everything else you can imagine. I have my own Facebook group. So explore and see if these can kind of help you connect and give you some more resources. With that, I will end, and I will say thank you, and I will wish you all the best. And thank you for listening today.